but not least by a long shot, is that we also this week experienced collectively the tragedy of gun violence. It has visited our shores yet again. One of my concerns in that regard is it's happening all too frequently for sure. And a lot of us are now becoming dumb to it, or numb to it, I should say, in the sense that, okay, it happened and we move on, as opposed to realizing that this is a tragedy. And Bermuda has to now really redirect, re-energize to look at solutions. And I believe that the solution rather, starts with each of us. It's not about, oh, so and so. No. You start where you can start in terms of if you have children involved, if you have children doing different things, or nieces and nephews, start there, because that's how we can actually extend out rather than trying to place blame or trying to find out why. Let us each do our part and in that sense get to a collective good. So having said all that, I will press pause and say this, that tonight is in fact a proud daily moment for me, proud father moment, because I have two young ladies who are going to be our guests this evening. They have demonstrated significant fortitude because collectively they are in medical school on different tracks, but they had some challenges, and rather than give up, they did something different. They dug in. And so it's of tremendous success that they are going forward to do this. And tonight we want to use them as an example for others, because so often what we say is, oh, everything is negative, the glass is half empty, and guess what? It's not. It's half full. And so it's tremendous to know that these two young ladies, they're both female, had taken the time to, rather than fall back and wallow in what took place when they were preparing themselves for medical school, is to say, you know what? We're going to take what I call the proverbial lemons and make them into lemonade, and that's what they did. And so the reason why it's a proud daily moment is because one of the guests this evening is my daughter. The other is her good friend who I've known for many, many years. Not sure if I knew when he was born, but no, not sure. But many, many years in any event. And so it's one of those moments whereby we can sit here and we can talk and have a conversation, right? It's not been pre-planned. It's not as though we had a conversation beforehand, so people know what we're talking about. No. It's going to be, as always, a very spontaneous conversation. As I always say, the time goes quite fast. We're going to be here from now until 10 p.m. I'm going to have a normal format, which is going to be, we have a conversation ourselves. We will first start off with them introducing themselves in the way that they want. Have a conversation, then the listening audience, will be invited to tune in by calling 297-1027 after about 30, 45 minutes, give or take, and we will see how that goes. What is also exciting is that I sent out my normal weekly promo, and we have already received some questions, and so it's going to be good to go back and see what those questions are. And as we go through, I'll pause and take those questions, and people know they can send in questions either via WhatsApp on 538-8683. And to be honest, that's the easy way to do it, but you can call in later on 297-1027, and those that are online, you can obviously post your questions, and I'll read them as we go, and go from there. Final comment is I want to say a special thanks to all of those that do tune in. This week, we had the opportunity to give out some turkeys, and I was, again, pleasantly surprised because people called in, got the name, number, address, and actually delivered the turkeys last night, some cases quite late, but it was definitely encouraging because person said, well, thank you for insight, thank you for what you do. They tune in. Some person I did not know, but they do tune in. And so again, I want to say thank you, and thank you again for tuning in on the Insight program. This will be our last program for this year. We're going to take a pause for the next 2 weeks and return on January the 10th, the second Sunday in January. We return, and we have some guests already lined up. I try my best not to have the show lined up too far yet because I want to always be able to be flexible and responsive to what's taking place in the community. But I do have 2 shows already programmed for the first 2 shows in January are already identified who the guests are going to be. The third one, I'm working on that. If that comes off, it's going to be a tremendous, tremendous surprise, and I'm going to get everybody to tune in because they're going to be really going to be blessed if that person agrees to come in. They have a tremendous story to tell about overcoming challenges and all that kind of stuff. And now what they've done success-wise, you all will be blown away. I'll say you'll be blown away. And then we're gearing up towards, in February, will be budget time. And so we have the Minister of Finance on to talk about where we are. And one of those big things there is going to be this whole idea of corporate income tax, what's happening, what's not happening, what the amounts are going to be, all those things. So I think all around an exciting time to come into 2026 as we get there. But I'm talking too much right now, and so I'll press pause and I'll say this to both Miss Delia Abbin, and Miss Jordan Richardson. Both of them are student physicians, are either in school with aiming to become physicians, and I'll ask them each to introduce themselves and they want to know who is either Delia or Jordan. Either one can go first.
I guess I can go first. My name is Jordan Richardson. I am 24 years old. I currently attend Nova Southeastern University, the Kiran C. Patel College of Osteopathic Medicine. I am a first year medical student, and one of the things that I wanted to talk about really quickly is the difference between osteopathic and allopathic medicine.
Hold on, slow down. Let's go back. Okay. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay. Because first of all, I want to explain those things, but I want you to back up, to be honest, in terms of what was the pathway of getting to medical school, in terms of like how did it go, and you can, if you want, indicate what were some of the obstacles that you encountered, which caused you to form Next Gen Med.
I graduated from Berkeley in 2019, and I also did dual enrollment, so I graduated from Bermuda College at the same time. I then went to Ohio State, where I got my bachelor's in neuroscience with minors in psychology and pharmaceutical sciences.
Hold on. So, went to Berkeley, dual enrollment student, right? Then I went to Ohio State.
Yes.
And did what?
Neuroscience was my major.
Okay. Ohio State neuroscience. That's brain stuff, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then at that time, I had taken my MCAT, which is the entrance exam for medical school in the United States. And I applied to medical school, but I was unsuccessful in getting in on my first try. But Nova Southeastern offered me an opportunity to do a master's program, which would feed into medical school.
Okay.
And I graduated with my master's in May of this year, and I started medical school this year in July.
Okay. And just as a quick comment, so medical school takes how long? So right now it's 2025. When would you expect to be able to say, I am now Dr. Jordan?
2029.
That's 5 years from now, 4 years from now. Okay.
Correct.
So 2029 graduate. And that'll be finished school and your residency?
No, just finished with school.
And then residency is how long?
Depending on the specialty, anywhere from 3 to 7 years.
Okay, so residency, 3 to 7 years. And so just ballpark then, the school program, the university piece is going to really be, you've done 4 years already, 4 more to go to 2029, and then 3 to 7 to become fully qualified. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which means it's 4, 8, like almost 12 years.
Yes.
As a process. Okay.
That's if you go directly through. For me, it'll be 14 years because I did my master's in between.
Okay, 14 years. Okay. And we'll come back to the significance of 14 years, by the way, because we'll talk about salary and those kind of things, because this is a financial oriented program. And so we do want to talk about numbers at some level. And so, Ms. Eben, since Ms. Jordan took it first, you are now got the mic. Go for it. Who is Ms. Delia Eben?
Okay, so my name is Delia Eben. I'm currently a second-year medical student at American University of the Caribbean.
So on, the American University of the Caribbean?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I'm also dual enrolled in a postgraduate diploma program with University of Lincolnshire. So that's completed at the end of this year, and then in 4 years I'll receive my doctorate of medicine.
Now let's go backwards. What about school in Bermuda? How you like? Jordan says you went to Berkeley, right? So go back that far. Since we're here, what about primary school? What happened with that?
Went to Port Royal.
So Port Royal,
Yeah. Then Sands. Then I went to Berkeley for my first 2 years.
Oh wow, no accent coming through there. Went to Berkeley, yes, keep going.
For my first 2 years, and then because I played football all my life.
Okay.
As much as I always wanted to be a physician, I always also wanted to play football at a university level. So I decided to transfer to Darlington after my second year at Berkeley. Darlington School, it's a school in Rome, Georgia.
Berkeley in
Darlington.
After I finished Berkeley.
Okay, slow down. So you went to Port Royal, fine. Then you went to Berkeley in Bermuda. Then you went to Sands, you said.
Sands, then Berkeley.
Okay. Sands as middle school?
Middle school,
okay.
yes.
So Sands Middle School, yeah.
Berkeley for the first 2 years. Then I transferred to Darlington School to be
Oh,
involved.
so you didn't finish Berkeley?
No.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So you did your first 2 years and then transferred overseas
Yes.
to
Darlington School.
which is where?
It's in Rome, Georgia.
In
It's like
Georgia,
north
okay.
of Georgia, yeah.
Berkeley, then Georgia, okay.
Then I graduated from there. I really went there for the soccer academy.
Okay.
They had really good opportunities to get recruited to university. I was able to get a Division I scholarship to Alabama Agriculture and Mechanical University for football. And I was there for 2 years. Things happened that I decided to transfer from there to do with coaching and just they didn't have the best rates for students who wanted to go to medical school and success rates in that regard.
Okay, gotcha.
So I decided to transfer, and that's when I decided to transfer to the UK to go to University of South Wales. I completed my medical science degree, a Bachelor of Science in Medical Science. From there in 2024, and then I then applied to American University of the Caribbean and started September 2024.
So last year.
Yeah, last year, started my second year.
Okay. Let me just pause, right? Because when we have our guests, they run through all this stuff and they do it because they know what they did, but the public, and sometimes myself, don't understand or don't quite follow all the way through, right? And so what I want to do, and because you're young also, I want to make sure that the listening audience understands that this is not like a run-of-the-mill process for either of you. You've both been through a process, right? And I'll start with Jordan because we often hear that the public school system is not up to standard, all those kind of things. And I was a father, I know that you went through the dual enrollment program. So talk about what that is and how that prepared you or not prepared you for university. What was the benefit? Did you enjoy it? All those kind of things, please.
The dual enrollment program was an interesting experience for me. I would recommend it to anyone who's really interested in it. I didn't use it in the traditional manner because actually when I started the dual enrollment program, I didn't know that I wanted to be a physician yet. So I was more focused on psychology classes, which I really did enjoy. And I still refer to some of the things that I learned even now, which is 6 years later. But the dual enrollment program was a good program because all of my credits actually transferred to Ohio State. So if I had decided to get my bachelor's in psychology and not go to medical school, I would have finished in less time than the traditional 4 years. And even though I did switch my major and decide to be pre-med, I still was able to graduate a semester early, and I had 2 minors in addition to my major and being pre-med.
Okay. And just a quick question again, in terms of you changed your major from psychology to medical?
Neuroscience.
Neuroscience?
Because at a lot of schools, pre-medical studies isn't a major anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You have to just ensure that you take the specific classes that are recommended / required for medical school and the MCAT.
Okay. And the obvious question is, why the change in major? Like what happened? Not happened, that's one word, but what caused you to think differently?
I originally thought that I wanted to be a lawyer, so I thought that
Okay.
I thought that psychology would be a good path to work towards law school. But once I started my psychology classes, I found that I really enjoyed them. And so I thought that I wanted to be a psychologist. But then as I got more into the science background of it, I really enjoyed that. So I decided that I wanted to go to medical school, and then everything kind of went from there. And I switched from psychology to neuroscience because at Ohio State, I really enjoyed some of the classes that were offered for the neuroscience major, and it was quote unquote more medical. So I thought that it would be a better foundation for medical school for me.
Okay. So you went to the dual enrollment program. That was Berkeley and Bermuda College. You were thinking about doing psychology, which you did.
Mm-hmm.
All your credits transferred to Ohio State, which made it a little bit easier. But the reason you was doing psychology was because you wanted to become a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, you liked the medical classes more than the law class, I suppose.
I didn't take specific medical classes or law classes, but within psychology itself, some elements are understanding people, but then there's also more like understanding the neurotransmitters and different processes in the brain. And I found myself really enjoying that. and understanding the medications and everything.
So part of the psychology classes that you're using to become a lawyer talked about neurotransmitters
Yes.
in the context of psychology or becoming or law or both?
In the context of psychology, because Bermuda College doesn't have a pre-law degree,
Right.
similar to how a lot of schools don't have a specific pre-med degree.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I do want to say, though, is that Bermuda College now does have a pre-medical program that they didn't have it when I was there, but I think that's a good option for people if someone is 15 or 16 years old and they're in public school and they know that they want to do medicine. I think that that would be a great option. And I think it's a direct transfer to St. George's, right? Or they have some type of agreement with St. George's University.
Okay.
And so I think that would be a great option. That's what I actually think it would have been a better option for Delia to do that, because she always knew.
really?
Yeah.
Just because Delia always knew that she wanted to be a doctor since we were like 5 years old. Delia was saying
Okay.
she wanted to be a neurosurgeon, which she doesn't want to do anymore.
Gotcha.
But
So you guys have been friends since primary school now?
we
No,
have been
before that.
friends since we were probably 2 years old.
2 years old, yeah.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I should know that, but I don't. Okay, fine. So Miss Delia. So Jordan, you went through I guess, a varied pathway to get to where you wanted to be.
Yes.
And so now, what is your current final plan? You want to specialize, or what
I
you
would
at?
like to be an OBGYN.
An OBGYN. Okay.
Yes, which stands for obstetrics and gynecology. They focus on the female reproductive system and birth and several other conditions as they relate to females.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask you now, but I will tell you, I'll come back to that in terms of, is your focus going to be Bermuda or overseas? And in Bermuda, what is the perspective in terms of the demand for your services? This type of question, but not right now. I can come back to that. Okay. So again, I was getting to the point whereby you did not have a direct track. You didn't like go to high school, for example, and say, I'm going to be an OBGYN. You've gotten there through variety of pathways, but now you're on your track. And I'm asking now that, so did all that you do actually all add up to where you are, or were there some pieces that you could have done without?
I don't 100% know how to answer that question, just because if you take out certain things, you might not get the same result. So for example, when I first realized that I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to do psychiatry. And then as I learned more about how the brain works, I really liked neurology, which those two are closely interrelated.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand how I ended up with OBGYN now.
Sure.
But through some of my shadowing and work experiences, I was able to shadow an OBGYN, and I really enjoyed that. And now, as I've done some of my own research, I love it even more. This semester alone, I went to, let's say, 5 events with my school directly related to OBGYN, and I completely love it.
Okay. So thank you for all of that. And now, Miss Delia, Miss Eben, as you was going through, again, you went through kind of fast. And to list the audience again, thank you for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening for another edition of Insight. Our guests this evening are Miss Delia Eben and Miss Jordan Richardson. They're both student physicians, and we're talking about, ultimately, we can get to what they found out as being the obstacles to their journey to becoming medical students, and what they did, which was to form Next Gen Med. And we just heard from Jordan about her pathway to where she is now. She ultimately now wants to be an OBGYN, which is a medical doctor specialized in the female reproductive system. And now we're going to touch base with Ms. Eben, because so far, Ms. Eben, you've told us that you were good at football. You to play football, in my words, at the university level. And so you went to the Berkeley. After 2 years, you were so desirous of playing football that you went overseas to play football. Played for 2 years. Something happened. You didn't quite like the setup in terms of coaching and the ranking, and also the success of the school in placing children into medical school. So you somehow made a decision to transfer to the UK. And then you went to the UK. You said something about a dual enrollment or dual something. I'm not sure what that was.
That's currently what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come back to that. And then you played football for 2 years. You still play football, or you stopped?
I played all throughout undergrad.
Okay.
So I just stopped like a year or so ago.
Okay, so you're a good footballer.
I guess.
No, and actually, there's a friend of yours who is currently back temporarily from university. Also, she knew you. She told me today that she knows you should play football also. So I'll leave that alone for now. So you're at Alabama A&M for a period of time.
Can I interject really quickly? Delia is more than just good at football. She played for the national team for several years
Yes.
and has been overseas with the national team.
And one of her friends told me that, so I'll come back to that. So yes, so we knew. Delia is a very good footballer. Yes. And so you started medical school at the American University of the Caribbean last year. So now this is your second year as a medical student.
Yes.
Correct. And for those of us that don't know, what is the American University of the Caribbean? What's that?
So it's a bit complicated.
Sure.
So the American University of the Caribbean, it's a completely US-based curriculum. So we do the exact same board exams, the exact same exams, everything that a traditional US medical school would do. It's just all set in the Caribbean. My school specifically, we have two tracks. We have a Caribbean track that is in St. Martin, and you complete only your preclinical years, so just everything class-based, the first 2 years in St. Martin. But my school also has a UK track, which is the track that I'm on. That is at Preston. It's in Preston, Lincolnshire, at University of Lincolnshire, which is why we also receive a postgraduate diploma in international medical sciences as well alongside that. So we do the same thing as the island. We spend our first 2 years in the UK. Then after we finish our first board exam, we pass that exam. We can either do our rotations, our clinical rotations in the UK or the US at the various locations that they have.
And so again, just help me clarify, because it's the American University of the Caribbean,
Yes.
yet you're in the UK.
Yes.
So you said complicated.
It's very
almost
complicated.
I mean, as a parent perspective, do you know why that is? Like, that sounds strange in terms of how come there's no UK piece to this except for the fact that you're physically in the UK?
So I think it was 2018. St. Martin had a really bad hurricane.
Okay.
So they kind of just were trying to figure out where they could place those students. And University of Lincolnshire was one of those schools that
okay.
allowed for that to happen. They also decided to open a UK track because of where our rotations were. They decided that instead of like making children or adults at that point
Yes.
move to an island and then have to move 2 years later, why not open an option in the UK where they can, like, I could spend all 4 years in the UK but still receive like a fully US accredited degree.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So that is from a parent point of view, like, okay, wow. Let's talk briefly about but how did you guys make the applications? I know pretty much how Jordan did it in terms of you were very involved yourself in terms of getting all the information, making applications. So explain how that happened, or how that worked, and then I'll ask Della the same question about the application process. And now start to get to what you mentioned before, which is what were the obstacles that caused you to start Next Gen Med?
Do you mean undergraduate or medical school applications?
Both.
For undergrad,
Mine would be very different than yours.
I think that I started out looking at schools that had accreditation agreements with Bermuda College. And Barkley also always encouraged us to apply to colleges. How I ended up at Ohio State, that's a great question. I think I looked up places with good psychology programs in the US and landed on Ohio State. And then for medical school, because I went to Ohio State, when you say that you're pre-med, your advisor works very closely with you to help you along the process. And also I was involved with an organization called the Minority Association of Pre-Meds at Ohio State. So I actually received a mentor through that program, and I still speak to her from time to time to this day, and this is over 5 years later. But Ohio State had a lot of resources to help us apply to medical school.
And so they really did assist you in get into Nova Southern, Ohio State?
The U.S. medical school application, there's basically 3 applications. There's AMCAS, which is for MD schools. AOCOMAS, it's AACOMAS, I think. That's for osteopathic schools. And then there's a separate one for Texas. So essentially, you upload all your information to those platforms, and then it sends it to each of the different schools for you, and you can choose. But before I did that, I had to research which schools accept Bermudian students because a lot of them don't.
Well,
Yeah,
okay.
like more than half of them don't accept Bermudian students.
So Bermuda or out of U.S.
International.
Non-U.S.
International, but Canada has special arrangements sometimes.
Okay. I'll come back to you in a minute because you said before you want to clarify the difference between osteopath and something else. Okay, so keep that question to you. And so, Ms. Delia, how do you find the process through both undergraduate and undergraduate and medical school?
So mine was very different because I went through the route of athletics. Because I committed to the school that I was going to for football prior to applications even going in, I only had to apply to my school.
Well, so just clarifying. So you were at Alabama A&M. You went to the UK on a football scholarship?
No, I was at Darlington, and then I went to Alabama A&M on a football scholarship.
Right.
And then I transferred halfway through to the UK. And I played football while I was there in the top league in Wales. But I played for my school as well, but the UK doesn't have as organized of a program as like you hear traditionally in the US, how their sports work. In the UK, you can apply, if you play for the university team, you can apply for a scholarship, but those guidelines are very specific. And like at the school that I was at, the only reason I qualified for any scholarship money was because I played for the Bermudian national team. But if you, so you only it was like a gold package, then a silver package. And the gold package was if you either played for a professional team or played for your national team. And then like the silver was if you played in just like the local league. Well, for us, the local league was the top league in Wales. So if you played that, you would get a certain amount of money. And then after that, you kind of like didn't.
So that's very revealing in terms of, and you played it on earlier, but Jordan fixed it for you in terms of, so you're very good at soccer. You went to the university to play soccer, and based on the fact that you played for the Bermuda national team, that gave you a leg up, and you got the gold status?
Yeah, once I went to the UK.
Right.
In the US, I had a full scholarship. Everything was completely covered. In the UK, I was able to just get a certain, they actually transfer it right into your account, so you can kind of use it for anything related to university. But it's much less than what you would get at a U.S. school, depending on what school you go to.
Yeah.
But, anything helps in university.
But then, and so for me, what's important now is, in not knowing this, is that you're playing on the national soccer team basically helped you to get to where you wanted to for medical school.
For sure.
Because it recognized that, hey, there's a person, they give you whatever they call the gold value of it, even though it's less than you want it to be, but that played a major part in you getting to your ultimate goal, which is to be a medical school.
Yeah.
And so to the listening audience, that is actually tremendous, especially to us as parents, knowing that, and now for the children, I suppose, knowing that it's not just go play football, it's guess what, these things can open up significant doors to your future, no matter what you want to do. We've always known that athletics is important, right? But this is new to me for sure in terms of, guess what, it got you recognition because you play for the national team, and therefore you're able to move forward. So you had a lot less challenges, I guess, or timing in terms of what you had to do to go through to apply for the school.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think a lot of times athletes are kind of put in a box and they think, oh, I'm only good at this aspect of life, and they don't think outside of that.
Wow.
Just for an example, I want to say 98% of my teammates that I had, mostly on the UK teams that I was on, all of them were doing something degree-wise that had to do with sports. All of them were doing sports coaching, football coaching, doing degrees that all were related to sports. I think I was one of the only ones who were doing something that wasn't solely focused on athletics.
Okay.
And I think that's a big thing that sometimes athletes, especially growing up in Bermuda, get out of just the comfort zone of, oh, I'm good at sports. Yes, I can use that for education, but beyond that, like with that education that you could get playing that sport, what are you going to do with that? You're not just stuck in that box.
Right.
You can, like for me, I was one of the, everybody would be like, oh my gosh, like you must be so smart, because they're not used to somebody who's really good at sports also wanting to be a physician. So that's one thing that I'm kind of passionate about for like generations coming up and younger people coming up, that you don't have to be stuck in that box of, oh, I'm only good at sports. You can also achieve really great things academically.
And with that, I want to say you're relatively young, but so when did you come to that realization that I'm more than a sports jock?
All my life. I would guess, I mean, from my parents kind of put me in everything. So I played the piano, I played the flute, like I did everything. So I knew that I wouldn't, like growing up, I knew that the only thing that I wasn't good at was specifically kicking a ball around or playing netball or anything like that. Like I kind of always was spread thin doing a lot of things. And I also knew that it wouldn't be the easiest thing in the world for me as an international student. Luckily, I was able to go to Darlington, and Darlington helped tremendously with being able to be scouted at certain universities. But I knew that it would be 10 times easier to get a scholarship, to get opportunities, if my grades were just as good as my talent.
Wow. Okay. That's, again, I think for the listening audience, right? You're speaking volumes in terms of, because we all think, okay, fine, somebody's good at whatever the sport is, right? And we don't think more broadly that, okay, fine, that is one small aspect. And for what you're saying now, to the listening audience again, it's important for even those persons right now that are very good at sports is to realize that you're more than a sports person, that you can be outside. And in your case, both of your cases, it's actually a matter of recognizing how much of a encouragement you can be for others to know that you have a much more broader track. So good. Okay, now let's talk more particularly as to why you're here, which is going to be about this, the Next Gen Med. How did that start? What's it all about? And let's really, I guess, part of it. One question is, at what point did either of you, or did you do together, start to think about this idea of Next Gen Med? Because that was one of the questions that came out when I first sent out the ad this week, by the way. Why did they start it? What prompted it? And those kind of things. So either of you can go with that.
So really, Jordan and I were FaceTiming just randomly one night, and we kind of got into a discussion about how, I think at this point, I was maybe 3/4 of my way through my first year. Jordan, you were getting ready to start your
I was
first
getting ready
year.
I don't know if I was officially accepted into medical school yet, but it was the time. It was the time period between when I finished my classes and my graduation for my master's degree.
Yeah, it was around that time.
Week or two, couple of weeks. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
so we were just on the phone late one night, and I was like, I think we were just talking about like over the summer, how the only real job you can get that's like really relevant to preparing you for medical school or even any type of clinical experience is at the hospital, and how that's a really competitive and like they don't have that many numbers to get into that. So we were talking about that, as well as just what do Bermudian doctors do, like the ones who are already physicians. What do they do? How do they get there? Because it's really hard to kind of find opportunities in Bermuda outside of the hospital, because you pretty much have to do everything on your own. You have to email different practices, especially because we have more of a private healthcare system. Like you're emailing people, you're trying to figure out who would willingly have you there as a student, especially because when you're not an actual medical student, it's a bit harder for people to take you serious because it's such like a big investment to do medical school, and it's not something that's taken lightly. Yeah, you would know.
Yes.
And it's not taken lightly in the sense of like they only want you if you're serious. So if they see that you're not in medical school, and I'm talking about like physicians and general practices, like anything really in Bermuda, they would take you a lot more serious once you're in medical school. So we were like, what could bridge that gap between the current physicians in Bermuda and then the people who are striving to get there?
So you all are relatively young, time off between your schoolwork and your exam, late night, random phone call, and this becomes a serious subject. in terms of, oh, wow, what can we do to change the world?
We sat down and started a Google document together that same night.
That night.
Came up with our logo and all of that stuff. And I think we started sharing about it.
Maybe like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks later.
Sharing, I mean, with other people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got you. And what made you initially not do it and then do it? I mean, sharing the idea. What was that process?
We just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page about it and that we were really sure that this was something that we could dedicate our time to and all of that.
And how could you, given that you both going to medical school, which is like 24/7, studying, no sleep, all that kind of stuff. What made you think that you could actually do something and do it time-wise, like have time to do it?
You just have to I mean, part of it is probably, I feel like when you go into medicine, you're so used to doing so many things because you have to be such a well-rounded person to even have a good application to get into medical school that you're kind of used to spreading yourself everywhere. So I think that's part of it. But then also just a sense of like, it's fine when, you can make a community with other international schools at your medical school, for example, but what is nothing like actually having other Bermudian doctors and other Bermudian medical students at some type of capacity in a community as well, I guess.
And then also once we all graduate, even if we don't all come back, we start to have our own network of people. So for example, if I'm working in Bermuda and someone needs a special surgery, but I know someone through Next Gen Med, I can refer them directly to that person and they can be more confident that that person will have a good rapport and see their needs as they need them to be seen. And I also just think Bermuda is such a small place, but there's so many people that we haven't, like most of the people that are part of Next Gen Med, I hadn't met before we started this at all.
Like we had I think I knew some people in passing because I had done the Bermuda Hospital Board program. But like even then, even with the Bermuda Hospital Board program, it's a great program. But sometimes you don't always speak to those people afterwards. So it's kind of like, oh, you guys just walk through the hospital, see each other in passing, but like that's it. The next time you might see them, you might be referring to a patient, referring one of your patients to them 10 years later. But you have no like relationship, and you guys probably lived down the street from each other all your life.
And I also think that watching my brother go through the international business route and how his job has been in contact with him the whole time and he has a network of people that he already knows, and then not experiencing that with medicine, I think part of it is, as you mentioned earlier, we're in school for 12 years or longer than that. So sometimes you just get lost in that, or sometimes, because if you think about it, when you leave, you're 18 years old. And then you spend 12 years living abroad. So you spent almost half of your life living abroad. So there is a good chance that you don't come back to Bermuda because you've just lived all of your adult life in another country. But I think that through connections like this helps you to remain connected to Bermuda and not just be quote unquote forgotten about.
And obviously, to listening audience, as you know, is a conversation, and conversations go up and down all over the place. And so now I'm going to jump forward and come back later because you mentioned this, and I asked you both now, even at this stage, right? What is your thought about coming back to Bermuda to work? Because very often, as you know, listening audience knows, I was a part of the government process for the PLP for a period of time, right? And a lot of times right now, there is the encouragement or the attempt to say, well, Bermudans are working throughout the world doing different things. How do you encourage them to come back? And so my question is, with yourselves at this earlier stage, right? You're not finished yet, but what are your honest thoughts about, maybe not you yourselves coming back, not coming back, what's your honest thoughts about, I guess, generally speaking, the likelihood of you coming back, you yourselves or your friends that you've talked to, so the listening audience has a sense as to what's likely to happen or not happen?
I think specifically for medicine, you have the issue of being a bit limited when you are in Bermuda because we just don't have, it's not a need for certain specialties all the time. So I think that is a big thing that people worry about. Just if I'm really passionate about this specific thing, but it's such a small thing that might not be needed in Bermuda 100%. So I know that is a bit of caution for some people.
I can see both sides of the situation because we're more than just physicians. We're still people. Many of us want to have children and all of that stuff. And when I think about that far down the line, I want my children to be raised around like my brother's children or my cousin's children. And I just want them to grow up in that environment. But at the same time, something that a lot of people have cautioned me on with wanting to be an OBGYN is that the birth rate is going down. Where in Bermuda, some weeks there's maybe 5 children born. But when I go to residency, I could see 5 children born in a night,
Yeah.
in a single night.
Yeah.
So some of I don't know if this is entirely accurate to say, but you could say some of your skill level would go down just because you're not doing
Frequency, yeah.
as many skills as possible.
Yeah.
So I see why people might not want to come back to Bermuda. And also, depending on where you decide, what type of facility you decide to practice in, because private practice versus an academic institution is completely different. So if you're very passionate about research, yes, there's opportunities for research here, but it's not the same as an overseas institution.
Okay. Now, each of you have said a lot in those couple of sentences, right? So first to Delia, in terms of, did you say you have some concern about what your specialty is in terms of demand for your specialty?
Oh, not specifically what I'm interested
Okay.
in, no. But I just have spoke to other medical students, and I know that some of them are hesitant, and it even changes their trajectory of what they even want to do, because they're like, if I'm not going to be used that much in Bermuda, you can have situations where people settle for something that they're not. Like, I think most people in Bermuda know that, like, the general practice, the GP career is very oversaturated. But if that's something that you're really, really passionate about, you come into an oversaturated system, or you can be overseas and, do as you please overseas. So it's kind of that conversation of whether something that you do, your skills won't be used, as Jordan said before, or are you going into an oversaturated system?
And so, again, you're speaking volumes. Have you done research in that instance or some information, right, to know that the GP system is oversaturated? And what do you mean by that?
I want to speak to that for a second.
Okay, so jump in there, but
Just because I have worked in multiple GP practices for a while, and I know Delia hasn't worked directly in the GP practices, I think saying that they're oversaturated is a complicated question, because there's some GPs who are at capacity and cannot take any more patients. They might have their annual physicals booked out all the way until March. But then there's some other physicians who are also GPs and they have availability tomorrow. So it's a very big, because yes, it is oversaturated, but there's a very big, I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, difference.
Difference in what people need. And then also some of the specialties are also they're very in demand. Because, for example, I remember a couple years ago, one of the dermatologists, we were calling to refer a patient there, and they had like 3 months of a waiting list. But it's just it's a lot.
So at this relatively, I wouldn't say young age, but not necessarily young, you have experience, right, in terms of, what do you attribute that to in terms of, Deli and I are the same physician, GP, let's say, right? She's very, very busy. I'm not so busy. What comment would you have in terms of that difference at this stage of your experience?
Sometimes it's gender, sometimes it's because GPs traditionally were family physicians. So there are some people who their grandmother, their mother, their father, their sister, them and their children all go to the same physician. So that's why that person might be fully booked. Or let's say you have a GP and you really like them, so you recommend them to all of your friends, and then your friends want to go to that specific physician, not another physician, and then that is how certain GPs can be fully booked out and then other GPs aren't.
And just to add to that, I think what happens is that it's pretty much like, everybody goes to the one that like has the best recommendation. And I think even with the question that you asked about like, why do you think that so many spots are filled up and so many spots aren't, that's kind of even why we started Next Gen Med. And like, we kind of try to emphasize, what are you guys interested in? Because there's a massive lack of transparency. One, how many Bermudian doctors we have versus overseas physicians we have.
You can't find that information?
I mean, you probably could, but it's not like in one system where it's like easy to access.
Well, Dr. D, I hope you're listening, because that's a question. Where are the
Yeah,
doctors?
maybe
How can we analyze them to know? What's the question? How many Bermudians versus non-Bermudians?
I mean, that's not so much the question. The question is, what are the gaps? Where
Okay.
are they? Like, what do we need? Like, there's no, I think that's kind of what, like, our heart behind what we wanted to do with Next Gen Med. We want to find that data so that we could share it with ourselves, with the people that are a part of Next Gen Med to just figure out where are the gaps? How can we fill them? Are there Bermudians overseas and they don't even know that, like, that gap is there?
Oh, okay.
Kind of like that, because it's not, I don't know, it seems like there's such a disconnect between the people who are in medical school and the people who are already physicians.
Wow. So hold on. So the two of you are in medical school now, just starting out, but you're there. You're suggesting or you're commenting that it's hard to find out from the local physician community what's needed.
It's also hard to connect with some of the local physicians in Bermuda because not everybody is. I understand that people are busy, obviously, but sometimes it's difficult to even find mentorship because not everybody has the capacity, let's say, to provide mentorship to those who want to come back. So that's something that we are working on with Next Gen Med as well, because if you have a mentor who is guiding you and kind of encouraging you to come back to Bermuda, I think that will increase the rates of Bermudian physicians that come back.
Even if like the hospital had like more of a follow-up program with the students that they take in, I mean, they could. I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to speak on it like very solid, but even if like that, it's just nothing to really like. It's nothing. I don't think it would be that hard if somebody in Bermuda kind of was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have this like online platform so that everything's available in one place. Because sure, you could figure it out, but you're probably searching through the hospital website. You're probably looking at every single, for example, like a pain medicine clinic to be like, okay, so we do have pain medicine doctors, but we don't have nephrologists. Like you're doing all that research on your own. When Bermuda's such a small place, it wouldn't be that hard to maybe have that all in one space.
Gotcha. And so my question would be, just a minute, what's been the, and you can or cannot answer, it's up to you, is what's been the reception of the Bermuda Health Council, because they should have that data as the Health Council.
We have not reached out to them at this present moment. We've
Okay.
just been, our Next Gen Med is only about 6 months old,
Yes.
so our primary focus has just been finding as many Bermudian medical students as we can and connecting with them. And then hopefully going forward, we'll be able to look into some of this research and then also start to connect with some of the people who have graduated from schools and are back and practicing in Bermuda.
Which goes back to an earlier question, to, in terms of Next Gen's been up and running for about 6 months, what's been the reception? How many people, and like what can you give us data-wise in terms of how successful have you been in reaching persons who are in medical school or even doctors working overseas, for example? How is that working?
We currently have, sorry.
As she goes to her phone now, or flick, flick, as a young
We
person
do
would
have
do.
a group chat with the members that we have currently.
We have an Instagram page, and we have been working to create more so informational pieces for the last 6 months. We've done information about like different specialties, and sometimes we'll do like this past week's post, I believe it was about road traffic accidents. And so we talked about some of the statistics about that specifically in Bermuda. And then we also talked about how you could be involved as a medical student, and then some of the local organizations that are involved in that. So we've done things like that.
And when do you find time to, like, so somebody does some research, one of you, I guess, did some research to say, okay, fine, for example, how many accidents or collisions there have been, and then
we work on it together. Sometimes
We kind of, we try to do it along with our exam schedule. So kind of we try to do it in bulk as well. So we'll try to like maybe do it like a month ahead of time. So say I had an exam like last week, Tuesday, I would try to do everything that Wednesday following before. I have a bit more leeway because my exams are only once a month. Her exams are like every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I'll like sit there and maybe do a month or even 6 weeks sometimes ahead, and then like she'll put it on Canvas and then post it, like make it creative and stuff.
So the two of you are generating content for these various platforms
Yes.
and doing your own research.
Yes.
Have you been able to get any assistance from any local position, for example, or and
We haven't
haven't
reached out
reached,
to
yeah.
any at this point.
Okay.
It's mostly just been the two of us and the help of AI.
Yeah.
I know AI is obviously very, very important. So okay, if you had to right now, what do you want people to do to assist you with this process?
I think just spreading the word about Next Gen Med. For example, if you know anyone who is a Bermudian who is pursuing medicine, who's in medical school, who recently graduated, just connect them with us, and we're gonna start doing events coming in 2026.
And what is the route or process by which people can contact you? What's your next gen?
We have an Instagram, a
Instagram.
Facebook, a LinkedIn, and an email address.
So Facebook,
And we have a
Instagram.
link on all of those platforms for anybody to sign up and give us their information. And even anybody who's like in high school who kind of like is not sure, they're interested, but they're not sure, even for that, because we have, I think it's 15 people.
Yeah,
we have
there's-
15 people in our group chat right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, even like, because we have people, I guess because where we're starting right now, we may not have that physician connection for physicians to mentor maybe medical students or younger, but we do have people who are currently in medical school who can go and speak to 16, 17-year-olds who are like, oh, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that. But at least we have that so that those people can hear from somebody who's actually going through it.
Okay.
So I guess that's kind of what we're trying to do right now. That have that opportunity. Yeah, we want to have events. We want to connect with some physicians. We have spoke to one or two people who have, one person just finished their residency.
Yeah, I think so.
Another one just started residency. So we have spoke to them about potentially having them come and do like a Zoom talk with us. So that's kind of the vision that we have for the next few years.
Yeah, that's another thing. Our members, we did a post, like one of our original posts was where in the world our members are, because we're all over the place.
Yes.
I'm in Florida, Delia's in England, there's someone in Ireland, there's several people in Grenada, there's we're all over the place. So sometimes getting all of us, we did a like Zoom meet and greet back in August, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
So trying to pick the time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And
okay.
also, we're in medical school on top of that. So making sure everyone is not about to take an exam, the time for all the different time zones and all of that. It's just,
It's kind of crazy.
it's a lot to coordinate, but it's definitely something that we look forward to doing more of.
And by the way, so what is the contact information though for next gen? Because it's not spelled
contact-
NEXT, it's NXT, correct?
No, it's NEXT.
NEXT, Gen Med, BDA.
Okay. So it's NEXT GENMED.
Yep. And then our Instagram has BDA at the end, I think.
Our email address is nextgenmedbermuda@gmail.com.
Bermuda BDA or Bermuda spelled out?
Bermuda spelled out.
Okay.
But our Instagram is nextgenmed.bda.
Okay. I'm an easy guy. So mine is just going to be nextgenmedbermuda.com.
We don't have a website.
.pm. What is it?
We don't have a website. We have an email
Sorry.
and we have an Instagram
So sorry, nextgenmedbermuda
at gmail.com.
at Gmail. Okay.
And if anyone was to email us, we will see it. If you DM us, we will see it.
Okay. And if you had to, what funding would you request or require? How much money you guys need?
We haven't specifically had that conversation yet. I think things that we could use funding towards would be getting specific speakers to come if we wanted to do like a community service event, because
Oh,
community service is something that is really important with medical school. So if we wanted to do a community service event, that could help us to, because at the end of the day, the two of us and all of our members are medical students, so funding is something that's very, very important to us. And then later down the line, we have some other goals that we would like to achieve as well. Just everything would be focused on giving back to those who, like, we want to be the people that we wish we had growing up.
Okay. So now I'm going to go to the list audience. Sorry. Our guest this evening is Miss Jordan Richardson and Miss Dahlia Abbin. We're talking about how they have decided to pay it forward in terms of, rather than look at the obstacles that they had in applying to medical school and getting going, they're going to turn that into a positive, i.e. make lemonade, and be an example or a resource to young people that's following behind them. And so that's what we're talking about right now. One question that came out really early, to be honest, is this. You may have answered, but I'll read it because I want to make sure the question is asked, and that is, what or who motivated you to pursue a career in medicine? I'll read them more, then come back to you. Most young people shy away from a career in medicine because they aren't good at math. What would you say to those persons? And many young professionals are not returning home. Do you intend on practicing in Bermuda? So I can go back to it if you want in the first pieces. The first part was, what or who motivated you to pursue a career in medicine? Because most young people shy away based upon the fact that they are not good at math. First of all, is that true? Is math very important?
Personally, I thought going into medicine, math won't be that big of a deal. That is a complete lie. Anybody who wants to go into medicine, make sure you know the basics. Because, yes, at this point, there are about, I think, 30 formulas that you need to know for step 1, which is the first licensing board exam that you have to take. I'll be taking it next summer. And there are a lot of formulas that you need to know, shockingly. It shocked me.
For example, what? For what?
You have to know drug bioavailability, so how far drugs spread throughout the body. You need to know those formulas. You have to know biostats, so you have pretty much a whole statistics class in medical school. And you're learning I don't remember,
it
just
comes
statistics.
back in physiology as well.
Physiology,
I just finished my physiology class a month ago, and there were so many formulas in that class.
Oh.
I would literally send Ellie a message and say I thought I was done with math.
You have to calculate cardiac output.
Yes.
Respiratory rate, how much oxygen's available in your body, if you're at a certain atmosphere, all of that, those come back.
Wow.
But it's not as, I would say you need to understand up to the level of pre-calculus, maybe. Beyond that, you do not need to do all of that. Calculus was very difficult, and
no, it's not as bad as calculus.
It's not as bad as calculus, but it also comes back in physics because we have to take physics to be applying to medical school as well.
So those classes, those pre-calculus classes and those physics classes that you think, they won't matter in a few years, they do matter.
Wow.
Yes.
So you agree with the question there in terms of be reasonable or open to the math piece of it and learn it in middle school, high school.
I would say don't count yourself out, but your academics, everything, all of the classes do come back in some way or another in medicine.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay.
Interestingly enough, I thought the opposite. I thought that I wouldn't have to worry about math that much going into medical school, but I was proven wrong. So I've more so heard the opposite of people saying, I don't like math, so medicine should be fine. I've never actually heard that. Yeah.
Okay. The person, who you are for asking that question. I'll come back to the rest of the question in a minute. But caller, good evening. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment?
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, let me say I am thoroughly impressed. I thought I was listening to young ladies that were finishing medical school.
There's a good starting. But go ahead.
You ladies are certainly on cue. And secondly, I'd like to say I like Anthony. I'm very proud because both of you are my cousins.
Okay.
And it's so refreshing to hear you ladies and how far you advanced. Dahlia would know me because I was her track coach.
Okay.
And I'm her cousin as well. And the interesting thing about the Richardsons and the Kellys, which is how I'm related to Dahlia, is They live a stone throw away from each other on Wellington Hill.
Okay. Now get to the question, dude. We heard you, but go to the question. Let's go.
The question I wanted to ask was, I heard Jordan, say what you wanted to specialize in. I didn't hear Betty. What did you want to specialize in the medical field?
Okay, hold on. And another question besides that, I'll get them all, then I'll let her answer.
Well, I just think Jordan's being humble because her university is the number one school for American football. Ohio State.
I do know that
It's
because
a good university.
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, I was there in October
okay.
at the Quarter Horse Congress. Her school is right beside a big fairground. So,
Okay.
very, very famous university right there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
But yeah, anyway, listen in.
Thank you.
And I'd like to hear that answer. What you expect to specialize in, cousin.
Okay, thank you.
Talk to you later.
No worries. So I guess the real question is, what are you going to specialize in? You talked about it earlier, but go ahead.
I'm not 100% sure. Because of how involved I've been in sports all my life, I always thought I wanted to go into orthopedics. But that has quickly, I shadowed there for 3 summers in the orthopedic clinic in the hospital, and I was like, I'm not sure if surgery and that aspect of things is what I want to do. So now I'm kind of interested in doing internal medicine just because that can open a lot of doors into what you can subspecialize in. So I'm like kind of interested in pain medicine a bit. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure at the moment. I'm just waiting until I do clinicals next year and see which one's the most interesting to me.
I actually think is really funny because if you would have sat 10-year-old Jordan and Delia down and said that Delia doesn't want to do surgery and Jordan does, we would have never believed you.
Oh, switch up. Okay.
I do want to do procedures. I just don't want surgeries to be the only thing I do. So I'm just, I don't know, not sure right now.
Okay. Man, many questions for sure. Let me go back to what the person said today. Don't say something crazy to me earlier. The beauty of this program is we never know who's listening and what they're doing. And so you responded about the idea of math. The person writing back to them, they know what they're talking about because they also are in the educational profession. I won't call the name, that's for sure. So the next question is, you talked about the whole math piece, and I think one of you did say, if you're not good at math, don't count yourself out, but recognize that what you're doing now at a young age is going to have application later on. So do your best, pay attention, those kind of things. Those are my words. The next question is, many young people are not returning home. Do you intend on practicing Bermuda? You answered that already, I guess, in terms of what your plans are, and you had a fairly complicated answer in terms of maybe yes, maybe no, depending upon what it is. And so I guess if you can come in and take over somebody else's practice, then you're good to go. So yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah, okay.
That would be very nice.
What I want to ask you about, one of you talked about, I think it was Delia, and by the way, to listening audience, I guess it's a disclaimer, that might be the right way to put it, because Ms. Edmonds' father is an employee, a senior employee at the hospital board, so let's take that off the table. Somebody criticized me about that, but anyway. You talked about the BHP program, right? How is it, what is it, how does it work, and how does it not work?
Okay, so
In terms of being responsive.
So the Bermuda Hospital program is a summer program that they have. It runs about, I think, 12 weeks, so it's throughout the whole summer.
Like government sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's for anybody over 18. You don't actually have to be involved in medicine. They take IT interns. They take
a general
accountancy.
program. Okay.
So it's a general program, and they'll place you wherever you fit in. Obviously, if you are blind, make sure that they have what you're interested in available. But I have a friend who did the accountant program. I know another person who did IT. They have nurses assistants, nurses students. So it's literally anything involved in the hospital, pharmacy students, everything. So it's not exclusively for just medical students.
Okay.
It's literally for anybody who has interest in a career within a hospital system. So yeah, it runs every summer for about 12 weeks. They place you in whichever program or whichever department that would be beneficial to whatever you're doing in school. So I was placed in the orthopedic department because when I originally applied, that was the specialty that I wanted to go to. So I spent 3 summers there. I pretty much learned how the orthopedic clinic ran, as well as I was able to shadow the physicians who work there. So it was a really good program. It does vary depending on what department you're in. Some people have very hands-on experiences. Some people have very hands-off experiences. It just depends where they place you. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It really opened my eyes to what orthopedics actually was, and what a career in that would look like. They also have certain professional development. I think about once a month, they have professional development meetings. And not meetings, but
seminar.
seminars, yes. So those are really good about professionalism, how to do interviews, just like things on those lines. I'm trying to develop
And those seminars are for the interns
specifically, yeah.
Okay.
So it's everything is aimed towards the interns. They also have we have like different like teamwork events. So we'll have, I think one of them, we all were put into groups and we had to think of something that the hospital needed and how it could be implemented. So kind of not a business plan, but a plan of something that could be like implemented into the hospital system that could benefit it. Interestingly enough, my group actually decided to do our plan on how we could get Bermudian physicians to come back, and certain things that we could do for young Bermudians and Bermudian physicians who aren't in Bermuda, and even for us who were. So kind of on the lines of Jordan and I's Next Gen Med, but on a smaller scale within that. But yeah, I thought it was a really good program. I'm trying to apply for it next year again while I'm here. But I have nothing bad to say. It was a really... Did
you get a chance to actually observe surgeries?
No. But it's kind of like a tier system if you are on the medical route. Specifically for anybody who is in undergraduate and is interested in becoming a physician, they try to get you to be in one of the clinics or on a ward. Whereas once you get to medical school, they've switched up the program a bit because I think the last time I was in it was 2024 summer. But as of 2024 summer, I think the medical students specifically spent a certain amount of time in each area. I'm not 100% sure.
Broad-based, okay.
Yeah, and if you were in your third or fourth year, you obviously get a bit... Nothing can be hands-on since Bermuda Hospital isn't not a teaching hospital.
Yes, I got you.
But, you can go into... I think some of the students who were like in the last year were able to go into surgeries and observe surgeries.
You can see, you can't obviously talk. Okay, understood. Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Now let's go way back to Miss Jordan there in terms of you were going to explain the difference between Doctor of
Osteopathic Medicine.
Slow down. So,
the difference between osteopathic medicine and allopathic medicine.
And what?
Allopathic.
How you spell allopathic?
A-L-L-O-P.
Pathic. Okay, got you.
P-A-T-H.
Pathic.
Yeah.
Got you.
So when we both graduate, Delia will have an MD and I will have a DO degree. We will generally be able to practice and do the exact same things, but my board exams are different because we have a part of our curriculum called osteopathic manipulative medicine, and that is actually something that I am excited to hopefully bring to Bermuda when I finish, because it's not something that I've at least seen that much here. I know that there are a couple other DOs in Bermuda, but not all of them use their osteopathic techniques because you don't have to. But I really have enjoyed my osteopathic classes so far because it teaches you a lot about how the body and physiology and disease processes are all related. And the best way to explain it, I think, is it's similar to a chiropractor and a physical therapist, but you can also practice medicine. And a lot of the techniques that we learn are similar to what you might see a chiropractor or a physical therapist do, but it's different. And I think that there's a lot of, because like there's different techniques that you can use to move lymphatic fluid, which is the fluid that carries a lot of toxins in your body. So that can be useful with cancer patients. There are different positions and techniques that you can use to help women who are in labor. And that's actually something that I'm just really interested in learning more about.
Okay. So if there are DOs here already, why would they not be using these things that if they are advanced or if they are advantageous to the patient?
I cannot answer that question
Okay.
for those specific physicians, but you can still practice medicine without using those specific techniques.
Okay. Okay, good. So what I want to do, sorry to listen to again, thank you for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening for another edition of Insight on this Sunday night. They're looking at the wall, see what I'm looking at the wall for, but anyway. Our guests this evening is Jordan Richardson and Delia Eben. They are both student physicians. And we're talking, the idea for tonight, right, was to come and talk about Next Gen Med, which is a group or a community that they want to establish to have people come together to avoid any undue challenges when they're applying or going through an experience in medical school. But I've been asking lots of general questions because they have general information. And so what I want to do now, two things I want to do. One is ask you about money. What's your thoughts about how much does school cost? How is it being managed and those things? I mean, you may not know because you both have parents who are spending lots of money to support you, but talk about scholarships, right? And also what I want to do, which is unfair, which is to have you give me comments from your experience, almost to critique Bermuda's healthcare system. So that'll be second. First is, from a student point of view, right? Disclaimer to the parents, which is myself and my wife, and also Mr. and Mrs. Eben, Arthur Eben and his wife. Oh, there. Sorry. What's your experience from a money point of view in terms of students? How much do you think it costs to go to medical school?
How much do we think, or how much do we know? It's very expensive.
And it also depends.
On where you go.
It depends on where you go and how you do it. If you were to do dual enrollment or even do your first 2 years at Bermuda College and then transfer to St. George's University, that would be less expensive than the route that I chose, which
Okay.
was the United States is the most expensive option out of all of the different options. The UK is a lot more affordable. And one of the big differences, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that in the UK, you can go directly into medicine, whereas in the US, you have to do an undergraduate degree before you start medical school.
So Delia could go straight to medical school, and you can't, because she's in the UK and you're in the US.
Technically.
But like from high school, you can go straight into medical school at 18 years old in the UK.
Yeah.
In the US, you have to get a bachelor's degree first.
Okay.
I can explain it a bit further. So
Sure.
in the UK, you have undergraduate medicine and you have graduate medicine. Undergraduate medicine is usually a 5 to 6 year program where you're done after 5 to 6 years. So if you start at 18, you'll be practicing by the time you're 23. 23, 24, depending on whether you're in a 5 to 6 year program. Then you have graduate medicine, which works the exact same way as the US. But I guess the other slight difference is that in the UK, undergraduate is 3 years, because when you start, you're doing the exact degree. You don't have to take general ed classes like you usually do in the US. You just my undergraduate degree, I actually started over after I transferred because it was only 3 years, and all I did was medical science classes. So everything I did related to sciences, whereas when I was in the US, I was taking a theater class and an art class.
Okay, no electives.
So
okay.
that is no electives, yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're not even electives. The course you
Yeah.
have to take them.
Okay.
They're called general education
General
classes.
education classes,
Okay.
yes.
So in the US, a lot of times you have to take classes from certain areas that are not the same as elective classes. For example, for me, my elective classes were like behavioral neuroscience, but my general education classes could be, I don't know, history of Harry Potter or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
But back to your original question,
Which question, come on?
how much does it cost?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I would say for Ohio State, I believe it. Do you want specific numbers?
No, just ballpark for whatever you know.
I think Ohio State was about $50,000 a year, and medical school now is about $75,000 to $100,000 a year.
Okay, so school fees would be 50,000 plus you have all of the living expenses. That's above that.
I was calculating the living expenses roughly within that. I
Okay.
think.
But
I'm
the,
just trying to do the math. in my
don't worry.
head.
The good thing to listen, audience, that I happen to be her father. She's very off base. Trust me. Medical school, I would say, is just very expensive. Let's put it that way to start with. And so the question then becomes, what happens to each of you in terms of the opportunity to get scholarships?
That's a big thing.
Scholarships are difficult to get, period.
Especially in medicine. I think it's a lot of times much easier because they have a lot more available due to the fact that international business and all of those things are massive in Bermuda. But when it comes to scholarships for medical school students or just health students in general, you're limited to Ministry of Education and the hospital board and maybe one or two more general scholarships, especially postgraduate. I think that's the big thing. You're counted out of a lot of scholarships because you're at the point when you start medical school, you're postgraduate, half of the scholarships just get sliced off of your list.
Oh, because they are no longer for undergraduate. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would say I have applied to scholarships for 4 or 5 cycles, and I was successful 3 times. I am very grateful. No, I think 4. One was directly through Barclay. One was from the Ministry of Education, which I got right when I finished Barclay, and I'm very grateful for that scholarship. And then I've also gotten one from the Ministry of Education again. While you're obviously grateful for those scholarships because it does help,
Yes.
when you think of $10,000 compared to $100,000 that you might have to pay, it's helpful, definitely, but that's still a lot of money that you still have to make up for. And I don't know specifics, but I feel like one of the reasons why a lot of Bermudians might not go into medicine is because of the cost.
Yes. Okay.
Because in America, for example, Americans, they take out loans for it.
Yes.
So that's how they're able to pay for it. But we don't have that specific
And just
option
quickly
available.
to add to that, which is why I think that if you are interested in medicine, maybe look at going to the UK, because not only is it only 10K a year, like just specifically tuition, 10K a year, you also can take out those loans because we are British citizens. So I think that's like also a big thing that we've been kind of talking about. I don't know what's being said at Berkeley about children who want to go into medicine, because I know they do have that pre-med program for high schoolers. But a really good option would be trying to get, because they do have the 5-year undergraduate program, but they also have 6 to 8 year undergraduate programs where you do 2 years of preliminary sciences and then you start your medical school education. So that would be, yes, it is still longer
Yes.
than the average degree, but that will literally cut everything in half and you have the opportunity to get student loans.
And then also, as I mentioned before, Bermuda College does now have a pre-medical degree, and you can use that to transfer to St. George's. So if someone were to do that, that gives you the opportunity to possibly live at home. Oh, also, being in America, there's restrictions on what you can do for work. So even as you're in school, you can't work a full-time job, for example.
Right.
You are limited to, I think it's 20 hours a week or something like that. And you can only work specifically for your school. So if someone was to go to Bermuda College, obviously there's more options for jobs that you can have because you could work anywhere.
And so I guess the question is, based upon the fact there's a huge differential between the cost in the U.S. versus the UK, and just ballpark, you said that the fees in the UK might be $10,000 a year, versus maybe $100,000 in the U.S. Why would you not go to the UK? What made you go to the U.S. rather than UK, Jordan?
For me, there's a lot of factors. I was just more comfortable with the U.S. because I grew up going to the U.S. more than going to the UK, and then also it's a lot closer, and the time difference is not as big. For example, when Deli and I try to coordinate a time to talk to each other,
Right.
it doesn't work because of the time difference and also just our different sleep schedules and class schedules and all of that. So that was something that I thought about as well. And then also just the education system is completely different. For both of us, because we're in US-based schools, even though she's physically in the UK, all of our questions are multiple choice. But for the UK, they're...
Medical school in the UK, most schools, it's a mix of short answer and multiple choice, but it's a completely different curriculum. Like, it's the way that they do medical school is completely different. It's very hands-on based. For us, we're pretty much only in a classroom for 2 years. For them, from I think some of my friends who are in UK medical schools, from the first week they were already in, like, maybe first month, but like in general practices and in hospitals. So they take a more like integrated approach, and
Okay.
we take a more, okay, learn all the information now, go in the hospital and apply it later type of approach.
Wow.
And I also think they have fewer exams.
Yeah, they only have finals,
And
depending on the school.
while that can seem advantageous to have less exams because it's at the same time, and that's more pressure.
Yeah.
Because you have, for me, for example, you have, like, for my core classes that I just started, for anatomy, for example, I had 5 exams. Imagine if I just had one. That's only one chance versus 5 different chances.
And
So-
also, I know, like, they're very relaxed throughout the year, but then they have a 2-month, like, every
Waste.
year where they're like, oh my gosh, I need to actually learn all of that stuff.
Uh-huh.
So it's much more up to you and making sure you're holding yourself accountable to make sure you're learning that content. Whereas us, we either learn that content in 2 weeks or we fail.
Wow. Okay.
And then also, once you finish medical school, their
Oh, yes.
Delia knows more about it than I do, but their process for your training is completely different.
It's very long.
For U.S. schools, you apply directly, for the most part, you apply directly into the specialty that you want to go into. But the U.K. is different.
Yeah, the UK, everybody has to do a 2-year foundation program where you just apply to the program, you're just a number in the computer, you get randomly allocated.
Wow.
It kind of, like, you do rank, I think, 1 through 20, like the hospital board system that you would prefer to be in, but you kind of just put in a computer, disperse throughout. You spend 2 years just kind of spending a few months in every department and every specialty, and then after those 2 years you apply to your specialty that you're interested in. So you're looking at, for example, internal medicine, family medicine is a 3-year residency in the US. So you're talking about being fully board certified 3 years after you graduate. So for me, I graduated in 2028. I would be board certified by 2031.
Right.
If I stay in the UK and go through that process, 2030, I'll just be starting my residency.
Okay. So the back end or the front end where it catches up.
And then also, because once you finish, your payment is completely different because of the NHS in the UK. Like, once you, like,
payment as a physician or
yes,
as intern?
yeah.
as a physician
Yes.
and as an intern as well, right?
Yeah, the pay, you get much less in the UK
But, yeah,
compared to US.
correct.
Yeah. But that goes for any job.
Yes.
Though, yeah.
Okay. So so to the student that's listening, or the parent in this case, right? By the way, the comment online is that the schools could be as high as from $80,000 to $100,000 US for medical school. I'm not sure that's in total or per year.
That's per year.
That's probably per
Probably.
year. More than
Well, I mean,
per
in the
year.
UK, it might be in total, though, right?
Oh, UK? Well, yeah, total,
give or take.
probably, yeah.
And,
if
yeah.
you're just talking about tuition, probably a total.
So there's a huge difference.
Yeah, because it's a solid 9,000 no matter where you go.
Okay.
And they have NHS bursaries and stuff like that for medical students as well. So that could creep down, like ones that, like the ones you don't have to pay back.
And so I guess if you can, because the two of you are friends and you're comparing back and forth, if you had to try to decide which is best, what would you say is which track is better, UK or US? Better, whatever,
think
not better, but
it's-
what word would you
It's
use?
really dependent on the person. Because I think, like, for me, because my undergraduate was in the UK, not only were we solely focused on medical sciences, we also had placements within NHS hospitals.
Okay.
Yeah, we had placements, and they had a really great network with the students who had already graduated and were in medical school and with us.
Okay.
So we kind of got insights to what medical school is like, especially with, like, from people who had the same background as us. I quickly kind of figure out, because I initially applied to all UK schools. I had always told myself that I would apply to Caribbean schools as a backup, no matter if I applied in the US, because if I would have stayed that whole time, or in the UK. But I initially applied, and throughout that process, I was like, I'm not sure if that's the route that I want to take, because it's much easier if I get a US degree to apply for residency in both places and just do the extra exams than the opposite. It's kind of harder to if I got a UK degree and then trying to apply to residency in the US, then the opposite way around. So I was like, okay, I found my school. I actually found my school randomly. I got an email and it was like, oh, study in Preston. And I was like, study a US medical degree in Preston. I was like, oh, why not just look at them? And I applied, and that's, yeah.
By the way, you might not attend to this, but you said that you applied to schools in the Caribbean also. Made it seem like this Caribbean was a backup as opposed to the original.
I wouldn't say exactly a backup plan. It was just something that I always was going to do, like, along with what I applied to. Because it also, by the time I went to a UK school, US medical schools, for the most part, only take US degrees.
Yes.
So at the point where I got a UK undergraduate, I had no choice but to either go to a UK medical school or a Caribbean medical school for US-based curriculum.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would go to the US again, just because I think it's better for me. As I mentioned, we grew up traveling to the US, so I was just more familiar with that. And then also on top of that, even though I don't live super close to family, I have family in the US, so that makes it easier for me. And then also proximity to Bermuda. If for some reason I needed to come home for something, especially not where I am in Fort Lauderdale, that's a 3-hour flight versus a 6-hour flight. So for me, that was something that I really prioritized because I just wanted to be closer.
Okay. And I'm going to go forward and then come back now, which is because believe it or not, we're now half hour out of the time, by the way. And so I got some questions. I'll go back to those in a minute. But what I want to do is not so much a critique, but based upon either or both of your experiences thus far, what would you comment in terms of the Bermuda healthcare system? Because I'll put in this context. Many people complain that, number one, it's too expensive. Number two, it's not getting good results. Number three, it takes too long. They critique the hospital, all those kind of things. What has been your experience, or what will be your comments? What will be your comments about Bermuda's healthcare system, whichever way you would put it? Not critique per se, but just what are your comments about your experience, your exposure to it, and what would you say?
I mean, mine would be a bit different just because I've experienced living in the U.S., Bermuda, and the UK.
That's fine. Yeah, that's okay.
The thing is, I know a lot of people really like the idea of like universal healthcare and public healthcare systems. They do work in certain countries. Certain countries are very successful, but in the UK, it's not the greatest situation because yes, you can look at the wait times. You can look at patients not being taken seriously when they do have certain illnesses. That could happen anywhere as well. But just speaking from a healthcare, somebody who's going to be a physician,
yes.
I do see how a public and universal healthcare system has a negative impact on physicians. Like you have a massive, pretty much group of people who are becoming physicians in the UK and going straight to Australia because it's a better work-life balance, better pay. So I do see how like the public health system in the UK affects physicians.
Okay. Meaning that it's overworked, underpaid, basically?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. That's like the biggest complaint you hear from physicians in the UK. And then you have America and Bermuda, which are more similar in that aspect. So I do understand the whole, like, it being very expensive. But I don't think either or is really better. If anything, just like a mixed system would be beneficial.
Okay.
But I think, personally, I do think that what Bermuda has is essentially like a decent deal. Because healthcare is never going to be perfect either way. But I do think kind of having, under 18s are pretty much free, and then above 60 is subsidized.
I think.
What's your question, sorry?
Are minors covered for...
In hospital, you're talking about?
In hospital,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So under 18s and also persons that are 65, 75, they have different ranges, but they are subsidized, yes.
I do think essentially, like obviously that system might need to be looked at and tweaked a bit, but I do think essentially like it should work. I mean, everything should work on paper when you make the plan.
Sure.
But I do think the idea of kind of like the working class being the ones to pay insurance, like I do think that makes sense. Obviously with inflation and things that happen, that does make that difficult. But I would say it's a better deal than some places that I have seen. But I do understand and I do see the difficulties in that with
Oh.
the economy that we are facing right now.
What's your thoughts about
I-
healthcare, just generally speaking, or whatever you want to say, I suppose?
I can definitely see how expensive it is, but I don't know what the solution is either.
Yeah, that's the big issue.
One thing, I don't know if you've read this, but I saw that there will be changes coming up I talked to you about it. There will be changes coming up for future care and HIP benefits starting on January 1st, which I think will be helpful.
And if you can, for the listening audience, they may not know. So what changes are expected?
Based on the information that I read from the Department of Health, starting on January 1st, HIP and future care patients will be covered for annual physicals. And I think this is a great step public health wise, which I also have like a small interest in public health, which that's a whole other conversation. But it's a great step in public health because part of the messaging of public health is that prevention is the best way to drive down healthcare costs, to have a healthier population, etc. But that doesn't fix all of the problems that people have. Because, for example, I've seen patients who are on HIP insurance, and on HIP insurance, you have 4 office visits covered in a year. You can go through 4 office visits so quickly.
Yes.
Because if you need an annual physical, and let's say your blood pressure is high, and the doctor wants to check on it in another month, you come back for your second visit, your heart rate is still high. You want to come back for another visit. Let's say you get COVID or the flu, and now you need a doctor's note. You're out of all your visits for the entire year already. And even the price of what an office visit costs versus what the insurance is covering, that's such a big difference.
Right.
So I definitely see how healthcare is expensive. And one of the issues that people run into, and I've seen it more so in the US than in Bermuda, but I'm sure it happens here as well. People will ignore healthcare problems for years and years and years because you can't afford it. And then by the time that you get seen, it can no longer be treatable, or there are massive procedures or things that have to occur that could have been preventable if it was seen earlier, but because of the cost, people aren't doing that.
And to kind of add to the whole preventative care idea, and I don't know, like maybe this could help and maybe this could be a solution, but maybe if like, I don't know, the community got together and like had maybe an event twice a year, 3 times a year. Like I know that you have the
Daily Mail.
the Daily Mail, where they're doing, what is it, prostate?
They
checks?
do a lot of prostate checks, and they
Prostate
also
checks.
do a lot of other preventative screenings
Yeah.
for males specifically.
So like say that is brought into, and like that the community really has those events like, you know, 2 to 3 times a year. So you're having these events that are like fully funded by charities essentially, or even like subsidized to the point where it's like very affordable. Even if you have things like that, like maybe doing more initiatives like that, even with us with Next Gen Med event, like years down the line, we hope that like we could maybe have something yearly like that. So that, because I actually did an event at my university. It was called a Health Millers, and we were able to get everybody's height, weight, blood sugars, blood pressure, and we had GPs volunteer and give them feedback. And we also took a bit of a social history as well, like the smoking, the drinking, those things. And the GPs were able to look at that and just give them a quick little preliminary, like, okay, this is what I think you should do. This is what this is indicating. And that was all fully funded and volunteered, because you had medical students involved. You had physicians who just decided to do it on a Saturday out of their like kindness of their heart.
Right.
So maybe like that could even help with the idea of preventative care.
I agree. I've actually worked at free clinics in St. Petersburg, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and in Miami and the greater Miami areas. And that's one of my favorite things that I've gotten to do so far in medical school and leading up to medical school, because I am so passionate about access to healthcare and just seeing how grateful these people are, because they wouldn't have access to healthcare in many other situations, and just being able to help, it is so impactful, and they're so grateful, and it's such a rewarding experience, because as medical students, especially during your first 2 years, you are just sitting and learning and learning and learning and learning, and it can be easy to lose sight of the actual practices of medicine. And so being able to do that really shows like a full circle moment of how everything's coming together.
The practical application of what you're learning in the classes.
It's not always the exact practical applications, but it's remembering that at the end of the day, you will be helping people and you will be treating patients.
Especially real people, because yes, we have OSCEs, which are, I'm not sure what OSCE stands for.
It stands for...
Do you want to dummy, Tomo?
It's not
No,
always
no.
a dummy. It's sometimes it's standardized patients.
we have standardized
It's basically
patients.
where you do a patient encounter.
It's just a clinical examination encounter. I think that's what it's something clinical examination. But that's how we're assessed. But when you're doing that, it's very staged. It's not it's not reality.
Okay.
So even when you know, like I think I have like 4 OSCEs a semester, but you're doing it on a standardized patient who's been fed what to say. They don't actually have anything wrong with them. So it's really nice being able to actually apply. I guess that's, to answer that question you asked before about UK medical schools. I guess that is the advantage that they do have. They're like thrown into it a bit earlier. But it is nice to have those events so you can actually apply what you know to like reality, like an actual real patient.
Yeah. And one advantage that I like about my school is that even though we are a U.S. school, we have so many opportunities because we have to do community service as part of our first 2 years. So you can do those through free clinics like I talked about. And they also have an early clinical experience program, which I will be starting in January. So we do get little moments where we're able to interact with patients. And then also because we're so connected with a lot of our professors, sometimes you can shadow some of our professors to get that clinical experience, even though during our first 2 years, we're mainly watching lectures.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So the other, to listen once again, let's go back to the whole Next Gen Med, because that's why we're here today. So talk a little bit more about that in terms of what's the plan, what's the long-term plan versus the short-term plan, because you even talked about the idea that at some point, maybe 10 years from now, for example, that Next Gen's impact would be the ability for you as practicing physicians to refer your patients to this Next Gen community. So talk about that and what the plan is.
I kind of want to start on long-term, I think.
Sure.
But some of the long-term goals that we have are some of the issues that we just spoke about. So, for example, because if we have a network of different physicians in different specialties, that can be a way that we can do a community service event where we can have all of our Next Gen Med partners and we do a free clinic that way. Or eventually, since all of us will be physicians, maybe we could all contribute a small amount and then we can create a scholarship that can help part of the financial issue that we have discussed. And then also one of the issues that we discussed was mentorship. While it's a little bit more work for us to find mentors for our current members, we one day will be able to be mentors for people who maybe now are in high school or even middle school and younger.
Okay.
And I can say short term, just continuing to like spread the word of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and trying to reach out to every Bermudian we possibly can who is currently in medical school, interested in medical school, or anything on those lines. Just trying to form that community and just trying to have events. We would like to have like just a meet and greet in person. It's nice to meet over Zoom, but we also want to actually like physically meet people, as well as start having some not seminars, but webinars, workshops with some current physicians to see what their story is, what their path is. And just kind of just start that bridge of
and even other workshops. So, for example, Delia is about to take her board exam for the first time.
Wow.
So then, and we have a couple other members who are second years as well. So then when it's my turn to take my board exam the following year, they can have advice that they can give to me, and then we'll just continue that path on and on. And then I think we can also do smaller community service events, even now without as much funding or something and stuff like that.
And just to add as well, I think another big thing that I don't think we really talked about was everybody talks about what it's like to apply as an international medical student, because regardless of if you graduate in the U.S., you're still referred to as a U.S. IMG, so a U.S. international medical graduate. You're still put in a separate box.
Okay.
And, with visas and all of those things, certain hospitals will gladly sponsor a visa, and certain hospitals are a bit more hesitant. So even speaking to Bermudians who have matched in the US successfully and seeing what their process was, what their route was, because yes, it's fine to speak to other internationals, but sometimes it's nice to know somebody from your country, how, like, what their process was, because we kind of fit in a different section sometimes when it comes to visas because of our relationship we have with the US and all of that.
Because even though we're both in US-based medical schools, Delia and some of our other members that go to St. George's, for example, when the US looks at who they want to match into certain programs, I don't know how to say this correctly, but because my school is physically in the US, based on their systems, I would be ranked above some of the other schools.
Like,
so they have kind of like a tier process. So it would be US MDs, US DOs, and then international medical graduates.
Like different. They have certain spots for each, like whatever you are. So even for so she would be like a US DO IMG. But then say it's a Bermudian, we have a member who is going to a US medical school. So he would be even in a different category than Jordan. So it gets very complicated, but we don't really know what that's like. And then even if you speak to a practicing physician who's been practicing for 10 to 15 years, the residency application has changed tremendously throughout that time. Even they made a change last week about publications, because a big thing when applying to residency is how many research publications you have. They made a change to that a week ago. So it's like, it's kind of hard to speak to somebody who, even if they've done the residency and they've been practicing for 5 years, not that they're out of touch. Obviously they could 100% give you feedback and give you information, but it's nice if like somebody who has like freshly just done it able to give you advice on that.
Now, to be honest, as an accountant, the same thing applies. I qualified a long time ago, and it's very different. We wrote out, and now it's multiple choice, and it's. I agree. The more current or the more recent the people are, the better it is in terms of their information. And so now, question is going to be: so we talked about Next Gen Med. You're both here, and to the listening audience, the reason why we had to show it today is because they're both here. They're going to be going before January, so I could not wait until January. That's why we did it now. But you're both here. You talked about Next Gen, right? What would you want to do? You're both when are you both likely to be back in Bermuda?
Full time?
No.
Like,
you mean like for a summer?
Yeah.
I'll be back in July probably.
And Delia?
Because I'm taking my board exams, my school does a really nice thing where they teach you everything in a year and about 8 weeks, a year and 2 months, and we pretty much get a full semester off to study for our board. So I'll be back pretty much all next summer, May to August.
But having to study.
To study. No, not for fun. To study, yeah.
The reason I asked, to be honest, is because the challenge would be, would that then be a time to have your first hands-on, in-person gathering or what have you?
Ideally.
It just depends on when, because every single medical school is different.
Yes.
So for my medical school, for example, my summer break is 3 weeks versus Delia will be studying for the period we refer to as dedicated. She'll be doing that. So, and then somebody else, maybe they don't have a summer break. So there's...
And some people's dedicated isn't as long as my school does it, so it just depends. So, but ideally, yes.
Yeah, we normally just a few months before, a month before, we'll ask everyone if they're going to be at home during this period of time, and then we'll try to have an event then.
Okay. And the reason I asked the question, by the way, is because in the listening audience, somebody should be prepared to fund whatever the event is. It's going to cost, you stand around, have some hors d'oeuvres, rent a space, whatever, or even a doctor may have a place they can have it whereby not so many people. So that's the reason why I was asking. Good evening, caller. Thank you for your patience. What's your question or comment?
Yes, good evening, Anthony, and to your guest.
Good evening to Ms. Jordan and Ms. Delia. Go ahead.
Delia, yes, I'm trying to find out, did you attend Stepping Stones Nursery School?
Oh, my goodness gracious. How far back are you going?
Yes, I did.
Oh, dear. The answer is yes.
Okay, do you remember a teacher by the name of Teacher May?
Yes, I do, actually.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Okay, this is she. I just want to say I'm so very proud of you. Just really very interesting listening to you and your journey. And also, I'd just like to share with you that I have a niece that is in the field that supposedly you want to get into, or you're going to be going into, Dr. Wendy Woods.
Yes.
And I would really like to chat with her, and maybe at some point you can shadow her or something like that. I would be very willing to speak with her, with your permission, and perhaps you guys could do some networking.
Gotcha. And I'll smile, right, as the father, I suppose, because it's interesting how small Bermuda is.
Uh-huh.
Because guess what?
Dr. Woods delivered me as a baby.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
So definitely a small world. Yep, you know Dr. Woods quite well. So yes, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, Delia, yes, it's just so, oh my goodness, my heart is full. I'm so very proud of you, and I want to wish you all the best going forward, and also to you as well, Jade. Is it Jade?
Jordan.
Jada?
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yes,
Jordan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my God.
Wow.
And Merry Christmas to all of you.
And to you, thanks again.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Again, that speaks to the beauty of Bermuda, you know, in terms of it's a small community. And you never know who's doing what. I mean, just reach way back. That was like 22 years ago or something. So way back when. But again, that's also, I would say, that that's the beauty of in Bermuda as educators. You never know whose life you're going to touch. And to be honest, you don't know whose life you're touching now as young but older than small people who's listening to you, even parents now, you know. So we never know how that's going to pan out. So there are many more questions I want to ask, but I'm not going to do that because time is not on our side. If you are talking now to somebody who is probably, maybe say, in primary school, which would be yourselves when you're in primary school, if you had to talk to yourselves now at that stage, what would you say to yourselves? So you are now talking to your 12-year-old self, or say 12, meaning that you had to talk to yourself when you were leaving primary school in preparation for middle school and then senior school.
This is related. I remember we had like a half day or something at Port Royal where we had like a career day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I went to my cousin Shayna. She's actually a GP. So that was my first real clinical experience.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I was just going to say, I don't know how like that would work as you're so young. I went to shadow a lawyer.
Okay.
But I would I don't know what I would tell myself. I'd just say follow your dreams probably, because even though my path to medicine was windy, I still ended up where I was meant to be, I think. So I would just say follow your dreams, I guess.
Okay. Got it.
I think knowing back then I knew that I wanted to be a physician, I probably would just say, make sure you know the foundations. Make sure, because I just my first semester, you think, oh yeah, that won't be too bad. Everybody's probably just exaggerating.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
you tell yourself to make yourself feel better about
Sure.
that. But just make sure you know your foundations and stick to your plans and stick to what you want to do, because they're achievable, and you'll get there one day.
I would also tell myself to really value your friendships, because 2 of my closest friends are also in medicine, and we talk at least once a week.
Yep.
And
Okay.
because they're both a year ahead of me, I'll complain about something and they'll completely understand where I'm coming from, or they'll remind me of the end goal and stuff like that. So I would say that as well.
So that actually is a practical application of Next Gen Med. Having somebody there to not a sounding board or grumbling, but just can always say, yeah, I understand, and help you through it.
Yes.
And to be honest, I mean, from other aspects, sometimes that small thing is a big thing because been there, done that in a positive way.
Yes.
And so it makes a lot more, it's a lot more relevant from someone who's been there. So, all right, good. Good evening, caller. Thank you for your patience. What's your question or comment?
My comment is, on behalf, I'm sure, of the Port Royal family, I'm just so proud of both of these young women. I knew them from the age of 5, and they entered Port Royal Primary. I'm sure they could recognize my voice.
Mm-hmm. They're both smiling.
I'm just so immensely proud of them, and they've spoken so well, and they're doing so well, and I'm looking forward to great things from both of them.
And
Thank you.
thank you for tuning in. And do you recognize your value as an educator?
Well, I'm beginning to. Thank you.
Beginning after all these years? No, I mean, in terms of having the ability to have an impact on a life, every day you go to work, for example, for every educator, right? In class, you're in the principles, and also that you never know which day you can turn a light bulb on for somebody. But we all of us can reach back into our memory bank and figure out one teacher that was special to us, or one teacher that did something remarkable for us, even though it might have been something small, that helped to change our trajectory. So again, I congratulate you as an educator.
And I'm going to say it just warmed my heart to hear them remember when they actually went out for career day. Wonderful.
Well done. They are both laughing heartily, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
One thing that we haven't said, I think that the way that our parents raised us was also very impactful in how we were
Oh, really?
able to make it to medical school. Our parents are actually very similar. Both of our moms are educators. Both of our dads are accountants.
Yep.
And I think that having educators as parents, they just push you a little bit harder. And I think that's part of the reason we were able to be successful in, because a lot of people complain that people get lost in public school. And I think that if your parents are attentive to their children and pushing their children and putting them in extracurriculars, that makes a big difference as well.
Yeah, just to add quickly, because I know probably mostly parents are tuned in, just like Jordan said, make sure you're paying attention and investing into your child. I don't think I could, because I know a lot of children who think things aren't possible, that starts right at home. And I know all my life, my parents are like, listen, whatever you want to do, make sure, like, I will get you there. And having that support from my parents is the only reason why I never doubted, I could become a physician one day. So just make sure that you're really investing in your children. If they say they have a dream, find a way to make it happen. I know that sounds pretty black and white, but, try to make it easier on them in some way, shape, or form.
And I do also understand that, well, I don't completely understand it, but parenting is hard, and I know that parents are doing their best, so I don't want to discount that as well. But if you can find any way to connect your child into something that they say that they're interested in, even if they say that they're interested in something and you think that they're going to change their mind eventually, still try to help them be interested in that, because I just think it's really impactful for the path that they go down eventually.
And to listeners, that's a turn of events I wasn't expecting, that's for sure. But let's talk a bit about that in terms of, so parents can encourage children by investing, and not money, but time, and paying attention and opening up avenues. And I think, well, I know you, well, both of you, I guess, did many things in terms of extracurriculars, right? In terms of, was it dance, and then football, of course, other sports, music, in terms of, not piano, but music.
I did
instruments.
piano.
Yeah, you do piano.
Oh dear.
How do I remember?
Okay. so I guess so I guess I'm trying to encourage even myself and parents now that to know that it's not about money, that's for sure. It's more about doing the things that expose children to other opportunities and keep them encouraged. The smaller things, let's call it. How have you dealt with disappointment though as students or as adults now?
I think that having friends that you can count on is definitely important. As we said, we've been friends for over 20 years now. And even though we are both really busy and both far apart, like world-wise, we text each other at least once a week. We try to call probably like every 2 months. But
Okay.
I think that being in my 20s, like, it's really shown me how important my friends are. And unfortunately, my friends aren't physically where I am most of the time. My friends are all over the world, but I always like come back to my friends. And like, even when we come home with each of my friend groups or whatever, we try to make sure that we spend time with each other. Like, my friends are really important to me. And I think that that's part of the reason that I'm able to cope with as much stuff as I can.
How did COVID impact you guys? Because you were in university, both of you, right?
Yeah.
How did COVID?
It happened spring break-ish of our freshman year.
I mean, for me, it actually was kind of convenient for me a little bit, only because I had gotten surgery that year, so it allowed for me extra time to like rehab.
Okay.
Because academics wise, like I didn't find that much of a difference. I was able to take all the classes I needed at that point. But athletically, it helped a lot because I was able to really rehab properly and come back and actually take my time to come back to playing, because that was a massive reason as to why I even ended up leaving because of how the coach treated me in that situation. But that's not a topic for today.
Sure.
I think that I would be a completely different person if COVID didn't happen because I stayed in Bermuda for so long. So I think that I just would have had more experiences and I might have felt more connected to Ohio State if COVID didn't happen. Because I was home for a year and a half doing classes over Zoom. So that definitely changes things. I don't know how it would have changed things academically. I had to change the order of some of the classes that I was taking because we couldn't do labs virtually, but I could do almost everything else virtually. So I'm not 100% sure how it would have changed things. It probably would have allowed me to do more clinical experiences because a lot of clinical experiences were cut out because of COVID.
Yeah, I think that probably was the massive thing. Like that was like 2 summers where pretty much everything, like clinically, was shut down.
Okay. And I guess my last question would be, what is your anticipation or what's been your experience thus far with artificial intelligence having an impact on your studies or your future or even what they are teaching you?
I don't completely know how people did medical school before AI, just because one of the things that I use, a lot of people associate AI with cheating, and I don't use it to cheat.
I mean, that's kind of
obviously.
impossible in medical school anyway.
But one thing that I use it for is I make flashcards and study questions for school, and there's a specific website that I use that I can put it directly into, and it'll keep track of like all my lectures and stuff, and it can make flashcards, specific study, because my school does internally created exams where her school does externally created exams. So sometimes it's harder for me to find practice questions. So AI has been really helpful with that. And then even with Next Gen Med, it cuts down on the time that we have to do research sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would agree. It's definitely made medical school a million times easier. I would say it, like, I don't even know it's just more convenient because sometimes when you Google something or like even if you ask like one of your professors a question, the immediate thing would be like to turn you to some textbook or to turn you to some like long research paper that you're not ideally going to have the time to read. So it's easy to just get like just quick information. Like Jordan said, my exams are made by like the National Board of Medical Examinations. So it's a bit easier for me to access stuff. But I just like even because I'm not the biggest person who likes to study with other people.
Right.
I very much need to study by myself because I understand the things in a way that I understand. I don't really like people getting in my ear about stuff and kind of in a way.
Okay.
So I will literally just sit there with ChatGPT the day before an exam, or it's this thing called NeuroConsult that's specific. It's an AI platform specifically made for medical students.
Yes.
And like nursing students, healthcare students really. So I will sit there and I'll just speak to it for like 4 hours, just like, okay, this is this, and just going through all my content. So it just like makes it easier. It's like a little study buddy, but then also can get you information quickly. Make sure you fact check though.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also think
And it says that too, by the way.
beyond like generative AI, which most people think about, I'm actually interested in seeing how virtual reality is useful as we go through our training, because and OBGYN is a surgical specialty, so sometimes you can use virtual reality goggles and stuff to practice some of your surgical skills, and also like robotic surgery, and there's so much space for technology in medicine, and it'll just be interesting to see how it continues to grow.
And with that, what is virtual reality in that context?
Basically,
For an older person, somebody who's 90 years old listening to you now, what is it?
it would be similar to a video game, more or less, I think is the easiest way to explain it, but you would put on goggles and you would it would look like you're in an operating suite,
Gotcha.
and you would use the devices to perform the surgery.
Gotcha.
And someone that I go to school with actually is doing a research project on whether or not that helps to progress your surgical skills faster.
Gotcha.
So that would definitely be something interesting to learn more about.
Even on a smaller scale, with cadaver work, it's very hard to have access to it. So some schools have like these, I think ours is called an anatomage or something like that. And it's like this massive table that you turn it on, it has a body, you're able to essentially dissect through a screen.
We have that as well, but
Yeah.
ours isn't a table. Ours is goggles. And I think we use it more this coming semester and the semester after that once we start our medical procedures class. But you can use it to practice, like I have a set of goggles and I used it to practice a physical exam one time. And you can use it to practice surgeries, you can use it for anatomy and all these different things.
Okay. All right. Well, believe it or not, we are beyond our 2 hours. I want to say thank you. As I said from the beginning, it was a proud father moment because, well, Jordan is my daughter, and Dahlia is close to that in terms of knowing them both from so long and seeing them grow up together all the way through. And as others have said, some online and some directly to me, very impressed with your ability to explain things. And sometimes that's almost offensive because we should expect you to be excellent in what you're doing. But many people have commented on that. And so I want to say thank you to each of you. Certainly want to commend you also in terms of, as I said in the media post, you didn't say, okay, fine, this is a problem, I'm going to like fall under it. It's come over the other side and start Next Gen Med. And we look forward to how that's going to work out. Certainly we want to be advised of anything you do forward in terms of gathering together or those type of things. 'Cause I think we can assist in terms of being inside and others can assist in any fundraising you would need, because given what you're doing, there's no reason why money should be the holdup. It should be a matter of, okay, you're doing X, Y, Z, work together to minimize location, for example, and those type of things. And it should only be things that maybe even catering should be free sort of thing. So we can do those things, and definitely want to encourage you. And you both said that you went through the public school system, which is important in my mind because very often we forget that the public school system is putting out very good students. You spoke about the dual enrollment program, Jordan, which as a parent saved me a huge amount of money, by the way, and also encouraged you to be better prepared for university life. When you went to Ohio State, you were able to do quite well. And so that speaks well. Dahlia, you said something very, very important, and that is that a lot of us look at these sports people as being sports people, that's it. But you said yourself that it's important for them and us to look at them as being more than that. And so, yes, you may be a very, very, very good football player, but guess what? You're much more than that. And the football playing does not define who you are. In fact, it's a medical piece. And you're able to use the football part to get you where you want to be in terms of into medical school. So again, well done. Anything else you'd like to leave with the listening audience before you go?
No, I don't think so. Just a reminder, if anyone knows any medical students or people interested in medicine, try to connect them with us. We would love to get to know them and hopefully just continue to grow Next Gen Med over the next couple of years.
And one more time, sorry, yeah.
I was just gonna say, and even to add to that, we have some great informational stuff on our page. So even if you're not in that realm, you're well beyond those years.
Sure.
It wouldn't hurt to follow to even just get some information. You can learn something new.
And even for parents who, a parent might have a child who is, I don't know, in their teens, for example, thinking about medical school to link up. So what is, again, the best way to contact or the easiest way to contact yourselves?
Our Instagram page is nextgenmed.bda, and our email address is nextgenmedbermuda@gmail.com.
Okay, and I'll encourage you to send that to me, by the way. I could post it on because Insight has its own Facebook page. That's a wonderful thing. It's easy. So for us older folks, that's the best way to do it. So send me the information.
We
and
have
I'll
a
post it in
Facebook
the
page as well. It's called
Okay.
Next Gen Med Bermuda.
Okay, good. We'll link it. To listening audience, thank you very much. Again, we come to the end of the year, really, in terms of it's been an exciting year for us to have lots of different interviews. And for the past probably a month or so, we've been encouraged to have young people come on. So we've had lots of people come and talk about their personal experience. And so that's been great for us. Going into the new year, we have, I won't tell you what it is, but we have the first 2 programs set up already, which is going to be on January the 11th. I think the second Sunday is January 11th or the 10th. So January 11th, let's say. And then January 18th, those 2 are booked out already. I'm looking to get a person to say yes. They said tentatively yes. They'll be very excited to get them to come on board as a local personality, and you'll be surprised at what he has done to go through just life, but to achieve what is achieved thus far. Really, really brilliant. So looking forward to that. And then, of course, the listening audience, we are open to hearing your comments, your concerns, your questions, and trying to get more information. And on a more lighter fun note, I guess, is that we do actually have some extra turkeys to give out. It's probably about 10 of them. You can call 538-8683, our normal number, and it'll be on a first come, first served basis. I do know that it's close to Christmas, and so therefore we have to start to thaw those turkeys. And what we will do is call me. I'll deliver them tomorrow, or arrange you to pick them up tomorrow so you can get them thawed and cooked in time for Christmas. But only about 10, so you can call after the show, 538-8683. Leave a message, or actually send a WhatsApp message is even easier. But the first 10 or so will probably get those turkeys, and again, we deliver them tomorrow. One more time, please have a safe and enjoyable Christmas holiday. Do something not for yourself, but for someone else to make them smile. If you're out early or late or any other time, please, please, please use a high-vis vest, a light, or some other device to make sure that we can see you on the road. I still get impressed, amazed rather, that people are out first thing in the morning in dark, in all black. I can't see you. Trust me, I'm trying to see, but I cannot see you. So please, 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 let's try to avoid collisions. And everyone, if you're out drinking, yes, please, before you go, decide who will drive. And do not think you can drive after even one drink, because you become less and less able to react. So please, let's have a safe holiday, everyone, and get us into 2026 on a safe note. On that note, thank you. I want to also say a special thank you to Brother Glenn Blakeney and his wife, Gwen, and the entire Inter-Island Communications family, because it's through their efforts that I'm able to come week after week and do this, which is to provide a service to yourselves. Please, again, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. On that note,
Bermuda Live on YouTube. Subscribe now.